Thank you, Mary. And they truly are an amazing team that gets a tremendous amount of work done. Very passionate. Now I'd like to introduce to you our next speaker, and that is Dr. Daniel White, the Director of the Institute of Northern Engineering and Associate Vice Chancellor for Research. He came to the University of Alaska Fairbanks in 1995. Dr. White also holds the rank of Professor of Civil and Environmental Engineering at UAF. In 2005, Dr. White accepted an appointment as Interim Director of the Institute of Northern Engineering, and after an ASO search, was hired in July 2006. In 2010, Dr. White was appointed to the position of Associate Vice Chancellor for Research and to head the Office of Intellectual Property and Commercialization at UAF. After restructuring the Office of Intellectual Property and Commercialization, the number of inventions disclosed to the office in fiscal year 2012, a record of 32 disclosures, surpassed the number of all prior years combined. Additionally, Dr. White has worked to expand the commercialization options to benefit both the inventors and the university. The Office of Intellectual Property and Commercialization team has recently established a nonprofit research foundation, NanoTech Innovation Corporation, and the for-profit foundation, NanoTech Ventures. We're also very pleased to have an agreement, the Juneau Economic Development Council, our technology transfer program, and the University of Alaska Office of Intellectual Property and Commercialization to work with them on commercializing technologies at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Daniel White.
Thank you, Brian, and that relationship has certainly been beneficial to us, and it is something that at least we got some seed funding to get that going from the Commissioner Bell's department, and we certainly appreciate the support of DCCED in that effort. Brian asked me to speak a little bit about the role of research in economic development, and I'll just tell you a quick story. You know, I was a faculty for a number of years, a teaching faculty, taught for 12 years or so in engineering, and one of the problems that I was hired to solve as a researcher was to destroy the cyanide that's used in the cyanide process to extract gold from mineral ores. And so we developed a biological process to destroy the cyanide in these cyanide waste solutions. And one of the things we discovered was that we could recover some of the gold that was being lost, because some of the cyanide holds onto the gold and they can't get that back. And as a researcher, I thought, well, that's great. We've just, you know, we had all these, messed around with all these experiments. We plated pennies with gold and all kinds of fun stuff that just showed that we had this technology. And as a researcher, then my job was done. I thought, well, I'm done, and I published that. And some years later, I've talked to a number of mining companies, and they come in and we talk about that. And one of the questions they have is, well, one of the things that they say, we can't use it. It's a great process, potentially, something we could use to extract more of the gold from our waste solutions. But you didn't ever patent it, you didn't protect it, you didn't license it, and we're a mining company, we license stuff. We don't develop processes. And essentially, once that was published, then it was in the public domain, and it makes it much, much more difficult then to get that into business. And one of the things I didn't understand as a researcher, but I do now, and one of the things we're working with at the university is identifying the process and making sure that we get from research to economic development. It's more than just kind of creating interesting stuff in the lab and assuming that somebody is going to pick that up and develop it. And so I've identified here, starting with economic development, in order to have that, we have to have kind of licensing of technologies or processes or plants. We have to have intellectual property protected, and we have to have inventions with commercial potential, and all that starts with research. If we can protect things, this is take inventions in the university from research and protect that, then we can license to companies. And once we license to companies, the companies have a competitive advantage. They can increase revenue and they can create jobs. If an Alaska company licenses new technologies, that's good for them, that's good for consumers, and ultimately that's good for the universities, good for the state. Also, once a company licenses technology, frequently that comes with a relationship that new research is developed in that area, goes into those products, and so that company has a kind of ongoing benefit by working with research that was developed, particularly at the university. It doesn't have to be at the university, but that's what I'm talking about. So the University of Alaska, and this is across the system, including University of Alaska Southeast, and of course appreciate the presence of Chancellor Pugh and appreciate the invitation to be here. But the University of Alaska has over 50 research centers across the system that span all sorts of fields, not limited to agriculture, biology, computing, some of the real areas that produce a lot of inventions, fisheries, ocean science, and others. And all of these are producing inventions. Viable technologies are protected and commercialized in the Office of Intellectual Property and Commercialization. We also do, I was in a meeting the other day, and we hadn't done introductions yet, and the individuals around, so we didn't all know who each other was, but one of the individuals said, volunteered, and was talking about a technology, and he said, somebody said, well, have you talked to the university about this? And he said, well, we're not going to talk to the university because the university steals your ideas. And I'm here to say that it's our objective to work with industries, and we protect their intellectual property coming into the university. That's one of my jobs. It's one of Adam Kranicki. I'll introduce him at the end here. He goes through documents to make sure that if you come in with an idea, that's protected, identified as yours. Same as when the technology goes out at the university. So I can say that that's not true, but if it's a perception, that's a problem. Certainly we want to work with technologies of other people's. We want them to come in, and certainly things that we develop in conjunction with the industry, we often have shared rights to, but we're open to business with business. So our role, this inventions to business of the Office of Intellectual Property and Commercialization, is to get technologies from faculty. Faculty are developing, faculty, staff, and students are developing inventions all of the time. And our job is just to streamline those out of the university. The office used to be called the Office of Tech Transfer. And tech transfer means a lot of different things. Now it's called the Office of Commercialization. Commercializing is actually getting things into business where they can make money. We have recently established, as Brian mentioned, the NanoTech Innovation Corporation. And that was established to specifically be an entity. It's a nonprofit supporting organization to commercialize the technology, because this corporations in general can move at a speed of business that the university can't. So we develop technologies in the university, we assign them to this company, NanoTech Innovation Corporation, and then they would license to business. One of the things that we find in the business ecosystem in Alaska is that there may not be businesses ready to license technologies. So we created the NanoTech Ventures, which is a for-profit subsidiary, which can create startups. And we actually have a couple of startups kind of teed up and ready to go as soon as the articles of incorporation from NanoTech Ventures are approved by the state. Faculty at the university perform about $114, $120 million of research annually. And we think the invention potential for this is about 15 technologies that have some potential. May not be licensed, but that's a rate. If you could imagine 15 new businesses, or 15 businesses using 15 new products, I mean, that would be a huge deal for Alaska every year. Other universities have a similar setup. We're not out there trying to set up a new way of doing business. This is modeled after many of the successful universities across the country who have gotten into startup companies. So faculty do the research, they come talk to us, we assign, if it's a technology has commercial potential, we assign it to the NanoTech Innovation Corporation, and then if it needs a new business startup, NanoTech Ventures. I mentioned there's a number of things on our hot plate. Among them, we have technology to manage risk to the aviation industry from volcanic ash. The Icelandic volcano that blew a couple years ago created about $5 billion in economic loss. We actually think if they'd have been using the models, that could have been something more like 2 billion, 2.5 billion, because we had models to say where the ash cloud was going and where they could allow flights and where they couldn't. What they did was they shut down all the flights. So this is something that the insurance industries are interested in, the airline industries. This is a startup company that's going to come out of NanoTech Ventures. A number of other tools. We have an unmanned aerial vehicle program. In fact, the University of Alaska has the largest fleet of unmanned aerial vehicles of any university in the country. We have 160 unmanned aerial vehicles, and we're not developing the new technologies to fly these things. We're developing the sensor packages, the control systems that allow these things to be used in all manner of applications. Lots of potential here, lots of potential for new business. Hydrokinetic devices, these are devices that generate power in the river. Alaska has a lot of challenges that other areas don't have. We have a lot more debris in our rivers, logs and things floating down, ice. And so the companies that make these hydrokinetic devices came to us and said, what can you do to help us? Can you create some debris diversion device? This thing in the upper left is a device that diverts floating logs out of the river to protect these turbines. This is something we have intellectual property for. We're looking at manufacturers to manufacture these to go in front of each one of the turbines that's put in Alaska rivers. So how can you help? Research directly leads to economic development. There's a number of steps in between though, and we're working on those steps. But I think you around this room can help by supporting small businesses, be mentors to small businesses, provide coaching, provide networking and establishing corporate relations with new companies, connecting financial resources. Many of the new companies that are using technologies from the University of Alaska are new. They don't have big financial resources, but they might be worth investing in. And help us connect research with local and regional businesses who may be interested in new competitive technology. New technologies need a special kind of business, the kind of high-risk entrepreneurs who see the value and see the potential for these companies. And so I would encourage you to, if you know early adopters, you know people who are interested, get them in contact with us, because we've got kind of a host of technologies that we're out there shopping around, and we would really like those to create Alaska businesses and not businesses elsewhere. No offense to Portland, but we'd like to have the businesses in Alaska. And I will, Adam, would you stand up? If you haven't met Adam Kranicki, he's our business development director in the Office of Intellectual Property and Commercialization, and he's here. We have a little booth out there, but if you have any questions, contact him, and I'll be here the rest of the evening and all day tomorrow. So please stop by and chat. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.